Hi there, I'm Rebecca Williamson. I'm the publisher of Fierce Pharma, and I'm here today with Michelle Gross, president of Spectrum Science Communications. Michelle, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me here.
So, Michelle, pharma and biotech communicators operate in highly regulated and often scrutinized environments. From your perspective, what is the biggest challenge when it comes to shaping public perception and stakeholder engagement?
So right now we have two very important things that are happening in healthcare communications. One thing is that the communications landscape is changing rapidly. And then secondly, the science behind behind the pharmaceutical companies' products are getting more and more complex. So being able to communicate this science in a way that's really going to resonate with your key stakeholders and get the story out in an accurate way is really important. Otherwise, patients, physicians get the story about your brand wrong and aren't understanding why your brand is important to them.
Now, as AI becomes a dominant force in how people access health information, tell me, what role do you see communications teams playing in making sure that credible science rises to the top?
It's important to remember AI has really only been available to the general public for less than 3 years. So it is really a new technology, and we're all learning, at the same time. One of the things that became very clear to us as we began learning about it is that earned media is kind of having a bit of a resurgence. For a while, it felt that all the different media channels, the lines were blurring between paid and owned and social and earned. But with the new AI models and the fact that part of what they're looking for is credible third-party information that gets served up higher than, some of the content that a company is going to put out around their brand. So it's really important to think about where you're getting your story out, what channels you're placing your content on, and making sure you have some credible third-party content talking about your brand to tell your story so that it comes through in the AI models when people are doing searches for your product.
Now, as a leader of an independent agency, what do you think gives Spectrum a competitive edge in today's landscape, especially compared to holding company firms?
So a bunch of us who are at Spectrum now came from holding companies. And what we experienced there was, a big organization where you have lots of different groups working in silos, and they're really working in the best interest of the agency and not in the best interest of the client. So when we came to Spectrum, being part of an independent agency, it allowed us to create something that was different and a model that would allow us to work in the best interests of our clients. So we are incentivized to work together. For example, if I'm working with one of my comms clients and I hear that they're having a challenge with recruiting a clinical trial, I can easily just tap over to my colleagues who sit in our clinical trial experience group and bring them over to a call and, come up with some solutions that might be better supporting their business challenges because we have bringing in different expertise to the table.
Tell me, what's one common mistake that you see health companies make when trying to translate science into communications that resonate?
I think sometimes communicators get lost in the technical aspects of the product and they don't bring the human story and the impact to the patient to life. I once worked with a company who has technology in next generation sequencing. And, they all know the technology so well and they could talk about it for hours and really geek out over the science. Nobody else cares about that. What they care about is how is it going to impact patients. So, helping to elevate the story. You've got to tell a science story for sure in order to be able to differentiate your brand and have an ownable position. But you also have to tie it to the human story and be able to show how is this brand really impacting and making a difference for patients.
So my final question for you, as the landscape of media, digital communication, and public trust continues to evolve, what key strategies should pharma and biotech companies prioritize to ensure effective and transparent communication in the years ahead?
Yeah. So I think, for one, really thinking about the full ecosystem, all of the different places that you could be putting content, and really thinking about where your target audience is so you could reach them at the right time, in the right place, with the right story. Secondly, I would say being flexible and adaptable. We're just seeing things change so quickly that I think that the companies that are really going to succeed are those who are at the forefront of that change. And lastly is how you measure the impact of your communications strategies. So going beyond just trying to drive broad awareness, but really thinking through that, the funnel of bringing people into convert them either to drive behavior change, to drive, a perception change around your company or product. So really kind of taking it all the way to that end change that you're looking to make that's going to help to support your business goals.
Okay, that feels like a great place to end. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here.